Welcome to the Speak Your Piece podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton, Big E, some people like to call me. It is Thursday, August 20th. I'm a day behind getting this out, recording this and getting this out, so I apologize. But today is part four of our NFL season preview. In case you missed it, we've done three parts prior to this. We've discussed the biggest changes slash movers in the offseason. We discussed the players who I think are going to have the most impact this upcoming NFL season, and we discussed the coaches who I think are going to have the most impact this NFL season. So, if you haven't already, go check it out. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at SYP Pod. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the audio versions. Check out some of our social clips on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, wherever you get your content. You can follow us. Any help is appreciated. Any support is appreciated. And thank you again as we inch closer to the NFL season. Can't wait. I'm excited. I'm stoked. Today on part four, I'm going to discuss the NFL games that I think are going to define the 2026 season. And if you haven't already, you can go check out our free article on Patreon where I discuss the 16 most degenerate games this upcoming season. That's right. I also talked about 16 games for the sickos. And in case you're wondering, you guessed right. A lot of Browns, a lot of Jets, Dolphins, a little bit of Raiders, some Giants, some Titans, Cardinals, Commanders, couple interesting games there. So, if you are looking for a fun little article to read, I suggest you go read that one. In today's preview, I'm going to discuss two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. I have 10 games that I'm going to discuss here that I think are going to define the NFL season. Um, some NFC, some AFC, prime time, not prime time, little mix of everything. Got a little mix of everything here. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Let's get underway. Uh, the biggest game for me that I think will define the NFL season is going to be the Rams and the Seahawks in Week 16. That's on Friday, December 25th. You guessed right, Christmas. And that is a 5:15 p.m. Pacific game. I believe it's on Fox. I think it's a Fox broadcast that gets that. It's a weird Friday night Christmas game. Both teams are going to be wearing their NFL rivalries uniforms. It's going to be a weird game. It's going to be silly. But it's a rematch of the NFC Championship game. Both teams by this point, by Christmas, should have playoff spots locked up, and it's a matter of competing for the number one seed in the NFC. It's crazy that the Rams and the Seahawks aren't playing again until Christmas. Like, you know, we are September, October, November, December. We're 4 months away from seeing the Rams play the Seahawks again. And then they play each other two times in 3 weeks. Like they play each other at week 16 in Seattle. Then they play each other in week 18 at SoFi in LA. It's crazy. But I think that's the most impactful game in the regular season this year. Uh, Obviously, those two teams have a storied past even before last season, but last season was really when it really seemed like it hit their peak with the two big regular season games with Jason Myers missing the last second field goal in SoFi, the Seahawks winning in overtime at home on the weird Thursday night game against LA, and then the NFC Championship game. So yeah, I think that the Rams Seahawks in Seattle, Week 16 on Christmas night, that's going to be the most impactful game in the NFL season. Uh, Turning our attention now to again, I guess this is the second game. You could argue the second most impactful game this upcoming season. Again, similar to some of my other lists, I didn't necessarily rank them 1 through 10. I just went through 10 games that I think are going to be really impactful. This one I think is going to be extremely impactful, especially for the AFC positioning for the playoffs. And it's the Chiefs and the Bills in Buffalo, Week 12, November 26th. That's a 5:20 p.m. Pacific. uh, on Thanksgiving night. That's going to be at Highmark Stadium, new Highmark Stadium, excuse me, in Buffalo, and it's a prime time Thanksgiving game. Assuming both teams are healthy, it'll be fun to watch. It'll be sick. Assuming that the Chiefs are also I think the big question mark I mean, you could say both teams are kind of a question mark right now. The Bills haven't the Bills didn't look great, I think, in their first game, but the Chiefs are also coming off a tough season. Can they get Mahomes healthy? Can they get, Kenneth Walker going in the run game? How are they using Travis Kelsey? All that sort of stuff. So, uh, and again, it's Mahomes versus Josh Allen. That's a great quarterback matchup. That's a fun quarterback matchup. That's what it's all about, really. It is watching two of the best quarterbacks in the league go head to head. And if the Chiefs have a similar season this year as they did in 2025, this might be the nail in the coffin for them. They basically by week 12 or 13, if I remember last year, it was over. There was just no shot, and then that's when Mahomes got injured. So, assuming that's not happening again, assuming that was just kind of a one-off for the Chiefs, this is going to be a really exciting Thursday night, Thanksgiving prime time, brand new stadium in Buffalo. See how that goes. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. Speaking of the Bills, the third game that I have on this list, it's the Lions and the Bills in week 2, also on Thursday Night Football. That's September 17th at 5:15 p.m. Pacific. And I know it's early. Like it's hard to say that a game in week 2 is going to impact the season. It's going to define the season. Uh, you know, it's going out on a limb. That's a bold statement. But it's the first game at the new Highmark Stadium for the Bills. If either team gets off to a poor start, they can look at this game as the potential reason why. Like, people are talking with the Lions, I think, with a little bit of disrespect. I think the Lions are still going to be a good team this year. I think they can still compete with just about anybody. The Bills are the Bills. You know, everybody wants to make them the AFC, champion, wants to put them in a Super Bowl. I get it. Nothing is guaranteed with these two teams, especially if you look at historically how bad like they seem to fall apart near the end. I'm excited for this one. This is a really fun, kind of not. It's like an early season non-conference college football game with the Lions and the Bills. Like, it's NFC versus AFC, and NFC North, AFC East. The weather should be decent. It's not a cold, presumably it's not gonna be cold and miserable in Buffalo in mid-September. So that helps the Lions out a little bit. The Lions are a dome team. They struggle outside later on in the year. So this presumably will help them not having to play Buffalo in December, but having to play them in September. Again, it feels like a kind of an early non-conference college football game where we get to hype up again the Josh Allen's, the Aiden Hutchinsons, the Amon-Ra St. Browns, Jameer Gibbs, DJ Moores, all those guys. So I'm really excited for that one. That's a sneaky fun week 2, you know, Thursday night game, kicking the season off right. At least for a Thursday night game in North America, since week one's Thursday night game is technically in Australia and will take place on Friday morning in Melbourne, but that doesn't matter. Nobody cares. The fourth game I have on this list, the Philadelphia Eagles travel to Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys, week 12, November 26th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Thanksgiving again. Uh, if the Cowboys are going to win the division this season, they need to beat the Eagles at least once, if not sweep them. And I am kind of high on the Cowboys this year, high on them to be a good regular season team. I don't think the Cowboys are going on a Super Bowl run or anything like that. But I think the Cowboys could be a fun 10, 11 win regular season team, especially if the Eagles, again, I've talked about this. I'm sounding like a broken record, especially if the Eagles kind of fall apart or have a bit of an off year again. Like I think they're like they could have this year. then this is a great opportunity for the Cowboys to kind of step in and take control of the NFC East. Um, but on the flip side, if the Eagles want to win the division, if they want to stay on top, they need to beat the teams they should beat, and Dallas is one of them. I still think Dallas has solid players, but Philly has more elite guys. Philly has more high end guys with Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Cooper DeJean, uh, you know, all those guys, Jalen Carter, all you name it. The Eagles have a lot of high end, top talented guys. The Cowboys, again, I think are a good team. They're going to play a strong complementary team game. Presumably on offense, they you know been together for quite a while now. There's a lot of cohesion within that offense. Brian Schottenheimer, he's the head coach. He's play calling. He's still around. They got rid of Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator, which is good because I think he kind of stinks. So they went in a different direction there on defense. That bump up from being like a bottom 10 defense to maybe being an average defense this year will be huge for the Cowboys. So I am curious to see on Thanksgiving. It's the traditional Cowboys afternoon game. How they match up against the Eagles. If they can get by and beat the Eagles, I think this sets them up. This slingshots them for a real run into the postseason as division winners. So that's why I have Eagles Cowboys on this list. Also on this list, you might not think about this game, but I think it's an interesting one. It's the Texans and the Steelers in Week 13. It's a December 6th game. That's a Sunday night, with a 8:20 p.m. Eastern kickoff time. This game could swing Pittsburgh's playoff chances and Houston's chances at winning the AFC South. I'm not high on the Steelers this year. I'm not big on Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers in the year 2026. I think this team is probably gonna stink. It also depends. I think the Ravens are gonna be good. It depends if Burrow's healthy. I don't know that I'm counting on him to stay healthy for a full season. But I do think the Texans are going to be really good this year. I think that defense is really strong. I think I talked about it before with D'Amico Ryans slash CJ Stroud of that offense has potential. That offense can do some great things. They just need an offensive line to protect them, and they don't have that. But they have a strong defense. Like they have a Seahawks caliber esque, maybe a tier below the Seahawks defense. Like it's still really strong. It's still really good. I don't think Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers are really up for the challenge of playing the Texans defense, especially in December. I think this season's going to go poorly for the Steelers. I wonder if some guys are going to be checked out by that point, by week 13. And listen, it should be an impactful game regardless of uh who's still involved, whether Rodgers is playing or not, whether Stroud's not playing or not. These teams should, at the bare minimum, both be competing for a playoff spot. It's just a matter of then do we have, you know, are we just competing for a playoff spot? Are we competing for a division title? Are we competing for what's actually at stake? And I think there's going to be stakes involved in this game, which makes Texas Steelers on a Sunday night in December in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh's got the home field advantage. I think that makes this game really interesting. Speaking of really interesting, Cowboys Packers, week 6, October 18th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. That is Sunday night football at Lambeau, middle of October. Should be a little cooler. Uh, it's early season, but this feels almost like a must win for Green Bay. And it depends on how week 5 versus Chicago goes because the NFC North is just going to be a bloodbath this year with the Bears, the Packers, the Lions. And some people are saying the Vikings might be good with Kyler Murray. I don't think Kyler's going to play a full season because he's A, never healthy enough to play a full season, and B, has the potential to play like crap. And maybe they give JJ McCarthy a shot. I don't know. But this feels almost like a must win for Green Bay because it's at home, it's Sunday night football. It's a historical rival. And the Cowboys haven't won at Lambeau in 10 years. Like their last win was in 2016 when like rookie year Dak and Zeke Elliott, game time for that Cowboys win in Lambeau was 70 degrees. So that's also a huge help, having weather that fits the Cowboys compared to it being, traditional Green Bay, cold, miserable, windy kind of conditions. And like a win would be huge for either team. I think both the Cowboys and the Packers would love to beat one another, especially in a prime time, high profile matchup like this at historical Lambeau Field. I think this game is going to have quite a bit of impact on NFC standings. I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that the Cowboys and the Packers, whenever they play, it's always meaningful, it's always impactful, and that is no different in 2026, where the Packers are in a really tough division. The Cowboys are in a winnable division. Both teams need a win. Both teams would love a primetime win. So we'll see if the Cowboys and Packers, can live up to the expectations that I have created for them. And then we have Chargers Ravens, week 10, November 16th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe this is a Monday night game where Ravens coach Jesse Minter is taking on his old team, as Minter was formerly the Cowboys defensive coordinator, or Cowboys. He was formerly the Chargers defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh. He's now replacing Jim's brother John as head coach of the Ravens. We'll see if the Chargers offense under Mike McDaniel is a well-oiled machine at this point. There's a lot of optimism with McDaniel, who he's coming over from Miami. Now he's the offensive coordinator. He's working with Herbert and the rest of those offensive skill players to create ideally one of the best offenses in the league, one of the most explosive, one of the most versatile. It's a sneaky, fun AFC matchup with the Chargers and the Ravens. It's outdoors. It's not under the roof at SoFi. It's outside in Baltimore in mid-November. Should be cool. We'll see if that helps the Ravens, gives a bit of a boost to the Ravens, takes a little bit away from the Chargers. I'm really excited for this game. Like I am really excited to see the chess game, the chess match that is Jesse Minter calling plays against Mike McDaniel. The Ravens defense versus the Chargers offense. Kyle Hamilton going up against Justin Herbert. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for this one. That is a sneaky underrated. You got to mark that one in your calendar because that's going to be a really fun game. And I didn't even talk about Lamar Jackson. I didn't even talk about Lamar going up against the Chargers defense. And I think that has prime, Lamar Jackson game written all over, where he goes off for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, maybe a pick, maybe a turnover. But I am super, super excited for Chargers Ravens. Monday Night Football, Week 10, November 16th. Can't wait. That one's going to be a blast. Speaking of a Monday Night Football game that's going to be a blast, 2 weeks before Chargers Ravens, we have the Bears and the Seahawks at Lumen Field, Week 8, November 2nd, 5:15 p.m. in a potential NFC Championship game preview, maybe with the Bears and Seahawks. We could have seen it last season if the Bears held on to beat the Rams. But I am really excited for this game as well. Like this game at any time would be a fun matchup, would be an exciting game to watch. But now that it's Monday Night Football, it's in Seattle. The lights are going to be on. The crowd's going to be loud. It's probably going to be one of the most expensive tickets all year in the NFL season, and it's going to be a great game. Like it's going to be fascinating to see Ben Johnson go up against Mike McDonald. I really was excited to see this last year. I don't know now because I believe Kyle Monangai suffered an injury in training camp or one of the preseason games. I don't know how long Monangai's out for, if that's going to impact the Bears long term. But still, I am excited to see the run game concepts that Ben Johnson brings to the table against Mike McDonald. Because that was the thing about the Seahawks last year. Nobody could really run against the Seahawks. Not really. especially down the stretch where the Seahawks defense really started to figure shit out. Ben Johnson might be the guy who can come up with some run schemes, motion, um, whether it's duo, zone, power, whatever. I'm very curious to see the kind of the run game elements that Ben Johnson, throws at Mike McDonald, even though the Bears still have Caleb Williams at quarterback. Like that, like that. That's the hilarious thing about the Bears that I think they can do some great stuff in the run game, but they also have this fantastic quarterback who can make throws all over the field, who can, keep plays alive, who can, make some of the most exciting plays on the field up against a Seahawks defense who I still think is going to be really good this year. One of the best defenses all time last year by DVOA, top 10 defense in DVOA. I think there's a little bit of a fall off. There's probably a little bit of a, coming back to earth moment, especially with no Reek Woolen, no Kobe Bryant, no Boya Mafe, all that sort of jazz. And really, I think it's a matter of the Seahawks, you know, reminding everybody this is their home field, home of the 12th man. It's Monday Night Football. The Seahawks are historically a strong Monday Night Football team, strong primetime team, to be honest. And they aren't going to let anything get in the way of that. My big question, as well as, running game concepts from Ben Johnson, I'm also curious to see if the Bears can pressure the Seahawks offensive line. Credit to Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. He did a really good job of calling plays on defense, putting guys in the right position. The Bears were a turnover merchant team last year. I don't know that that's going to be the same this year because very rarely is a team um, like top five, top three, top 10 in turnovers year over year. It's just turnovers more or less are luck, and not to say that it's all luck, but it's just there's some luck that comes with it. Um, but in this game, can the Bears pressure the Seahawks O line? Can they get to Darnold so Darnold then can make mistakes? I'm curious to see if that happens in this game. But in the end, it's Monday Night Football in Seattle, Bears Seahawks, Week 8, November 2nd. I can't wait. That's going to be a killer game featuring two outstanding coaches. Can't wait. That's gonna be awesome. Uh, Final two games that I'm gonna discuss here: Bills Patriots, Week 13, December 6th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is a Sunday, I believe, CBS afternoon game. This game likely determines the AFC East winner. Again, Bills at Patriots in Foxborough. I I hear the thing. I don't. I'm sure there's some narrative going on that's you know more or less what I'm about to say. Can Josh Allen win the big game on the road with a new coach? I love Josh Allen. I think he is fantastic. Obviously made a couple mistakes in the AFC divisional game against Denver last year that prevented the Bills from getting to the AFC Championship game. But now it's a new coach. There's a lot of pressure. There's a new stadium. Can Josh Allen go on the road against the defending AFC champions with a new coach, walk into Gillette and beat the Patriots and beat Drake May and beat Mike Vrabel and all that jazz? I'm really excited to see if he can do that. Because if he can, I think this is a Bills team that you don't want to mess with. I think this is a legitimate Bills team if in early December they go into Foxborough and they knock off the Patriots. Watch out. Similar to how I said earlier with Cowboys Eagles. If the Cowboys can beat the Eagles at home on Thanksgiving, I think that puts the Cowboys in a solid run, in a great spot to go on a run to win the NFC East. Similar situation here with the Bills. Just like 2 weeks, a week later, Bills, if they can stay healthy, if Josh Allen can play his game, they can go into Foxborough, beat the Pats. Watch out. Anything's possible. Finally, week 8, November 1st. a Sunday afternoon game. This is a 4:25 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The Chiefs are playing the Broncos. The Broncos have some easy games post bye week. If you look at their schedule, um, so they need to win closer ones against tighter teams. Like I think the Broncos are playing like the Dolphins and the Jets, and they have some AFC East. I think they play the Raiders maybe twice as well. Which I'm not saying that the Raiders are gonna be awful, but it's the Raiders. They should beat them. The Broncos need to beat teams that are closer to them or they think are going to be more threatening to them in the standings. This is one of those games. And the Chiefs Broncos games were close last year, and I expect the same again this year. Even at the end of the year with no Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs had a backup quarterback, that game was still pretty close. That was closer than it really should have been. Um, Presumably, Denver has the run game to stop K9. I talked about it with Bo Nix a little bit. I think Bo Nix and Sean Payton last week. Bo Nix really needs to take a step up this year. Like I think he needs to take another level. He threw the most passing attempts last year, which I think that shows that Sean Payton trusts him. I think that shows that Sean Payton has faith in this guy. But if I remember correctly last year, there were just so many times where people wanted more out of Bo Nix, and it just didn't really happen. It didn't really transpire. Hopefully, this is the year for the Broncos' sake that they get more out of their guy. And we'll see against the Chiefs. Week 8 should be a fascinating matchup, should be an interesting game. I'm not going to say that that game determines the AFC West winner because, again, it's early November. That's halfway through the season. You know, depends on also how you feel about the Chargers and maybe even the Ravens a little bit. I don't know. But those are at least the 10 most impactful games that we will be seeing this upcoming NFL season. And in case you're wondering, I'll even spoil some of the most degenerate games coming up this year. Again, go read the article on our Patreon. You can find the link to the Patreon in the description below. Um, Again, you have the Jets and Titans, Miami, the Raiders, the Giants, the Browns, Arizona. There's a Pittsburgh New Orleans game in Paris this year for some reason. Washington, Arizona, Cleveland, Cincinnati. I have as a Week 18 degenerate game, assuming that Joe Burrow isn't healthy and everything's gone poorly for everybody involved. They just need to call that the Jeff Driscoll Bowl. That's essentially what Cleveland Cincinnati is at this point, really. So go read that article. Go check that out. Next week is going to be part 5 of our season previews. I think next week I'm going to be doing a college football preview. So stay tuned for that. Check that out. And then basically we're gonna have a college football preview, I think, next week. My sicko corner, the week after that, that would be Wednesday, September 2nd. And then I'm gonna drop my full NFL season preview predictions, who I think is gonna win the Super Bowl, who I think is winning divisions, who I think is winning awards, all that sort of jazz. That's gonna drop on the day of the opening game, which is Wednesday, September 9th. So stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming out here in the next little bit, football wise, not just NFL but college as well. So can't wait to drop all that for you guys. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, go check us out on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that at SYP Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at SYP Pod. Follow us on TikTok at SYP Pod. It's all the same handle. Check out the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Any support is greatly appreciated. Go check out the Patreon if you haven't already. And yeah, thank you again for listening. It's greatly appreciated. Can't wait to be back again next week to discuss college football. So, thank you for listening. Appreciate your support, and we'll chat again soon. Peace out.